There is a lot of discussion these days, some of it inaccurate, about the state of elections in America. That's causing some confusion and uncertainty for voters. Wisconsin has a big primary election on August 11th. So we're pleased to have Meagan Wolfe, the administrator of the Wisconsin Election Commission, here to help us sort it all out. It's a busy time for you, obviously, and we'd really appreciate you being here with us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Really glad to be here.
We have an important primary ahead in a few days. What are some of the races that are on the ballot?
Yes, so a primary, the August primary, is an opportunity for the voters to decide who you want to continue on to the November ballot. And so you will see the opportunity to vote in a primary for one party for contests at the statewide levels, such as governor, attorney general, and some of the other statewide contests. But you're also going to see some local legislative districts as well as some congressional races. So, really, it's any of the partisan races, somebody that runs as part of a political party where voters will see an opportunity to choose which candidates in the party of their preference they would like to continue on to the November ballot.
If someone has never voted in Wisconsin, or if it's been a while since they voted, please remind us who's eligible to vote and what do you need to bring with you to the polls on Election Day?
Right. Whether you're a first time voter or a long time Wisconsin voter, there's a couple of things you need to know as you head to the polls or as you head to do in person absentee in the 2 weeks before the election. So the first is that every voter must first be registered to vote before they're able to receive and cast a ballot. And so if your name or your address has changed, you're going to need to register to vote. If you're a first time Wisconsin voter, you're going to need to register to vote. And in order to register, you're going to need to fill out a registration form. And again, you can either do that during in person absentee or at the polls on election day. And you're also going to need to provide something that proves your address or where you live. And so bringing something like a utility bill, a bank statement, an official piece of documentation that shows your current name and address is what you're going to need if you need to register to vote. Then, once you're registered to vote, every Wisconsin voter is going to need to show an acceptable photo ID at the polls. And so this can be your Wisconsin driver license, your Wisconsin state ID card. It could be your passport, a student ID, a veteran's ID. There's a number of different IDs that can be used to identify who you are so that they can find you on the poll book as a registered voter and issue your ballot. A really important reminder about photo ID. So once you're already registered and you're showing that photo ID to get your ballot, is that that photo ID does not need to have your current address on it. So let's say that your driver license doesn't have your current address on it, but it's otherwise a current and valid driver license or ID card from the state of Wisconsin. You can use that as your photo ID to vote.
One thing that people do in Wisconsin and in other states as well is they vote absentee by mail. Is it too late to vote absentee by mail?
It's not too late. So, under Wisconsin law, a voter can request their absentee ballot be sent to them by mail up until the Thursday before the election in most cases. Now, what I will say is that the commission recently put out guidance that said if you're choosing to vote by mail, you have to plan to have at least 10 days to return that ballot by mail. And so voters can still request their absentee ballot be sent to them by mail, but they're going to want to be very conscious of how much time they have left before the election, because every ballot in the state of Wisconsin must be returned by 8 p.m. on election day in order to count. And so the closer we get to the election or the primary, the more voters are going to want to consider, are there other methods I might want to use to return my ballot? If they're still in town, they might want to consider dropping their absentee ballot off with their municipal clerk, or their municipal clerk might even offer drop boxes in their jurisdiction. And you can find more about the options in your community or ways to contact your municipal clerk by visiting myvote.wi.gov.
Election integrity is a phrase that people are using a lot lately. What does that mean? And what is Wisconsin doing to secure the integrity of our elections as well as the safety of our elections?
Very important question. And there's great news here in the state of Wisconsin because Wisconsin has more local election officials than any other state. So no matter what city or town you live in, you have a local election official who is the one charged with maintaining the voter registration list and ensuring that only one ballot will count per voter. And so in Wisconsin, list maintenance or ensuring that only lawfully registered voters are properly on the poll book, that's happening every single day by your city election commission or your local clerk in making sure that only lawful voters are on the poll book and eligible to receive a ballot. I'll also say that those local clerks are the same ones that ensure that only one vote can count per voter and only ballots can be counted for lawfully registered voters. And so there are many, many checks that happen both when a voter registers to vote, as well as when they're issued a ballot, and then again when that ballot is counted. Once all of the ballots are counted, there are also processes that happen in public called a canvass, where again, your election officials are going to go back through and ensure that all of the numbers make sense, that you don't have more ballots that were cast than you had voters who were registered. And those, again, are happening in every single community in Wisconsin during and after the election. And another important part about it is all of those things are publicly observable. So anybody can go and observe the ballots as they're being counted. You're able to observe those processes. And so it really is something where Wisconsinites can get engaged in all stages of the process and where we do have more local election officials safeguarding the process than any other state.
One thing that we've experienced here over the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty interesting in one party's gubernatorial primary. You've had a couple of candidates drop out. You had a candidate suspend the candidate's race and then get back into the race. What will that mean to people when they go to vote? What will they see on their ballots?
Yeah, another great question. So, for candidates on the ballot for the August 11th primary, that ballot access or who's going to appear on the ballot, that's actually determined in June. There are state laws that govern when all the candidates need to file their paperwork and when their name will be printed on the ballot. And so all of the candidates that initially filed that paperwork and were granted ballot access, they will stay on the ballot. People are not removed if they were to drop off. There's no change to the ballots. Everybody receives the exact same ballot. The same ballots go out to voters who request it 47 days before the election as voters who receive their ballot at the polls on election day. So regardless of what you might hear in the media about candidates' desires to pursue a race, their name is still going to appear on the ballot and be eligible for voters to cast a vote for them because they already filed that paperwork and they've already been granted access to appear on the ballot.
If I've already submitted my absentee ballot and voted for someone who's dropped out of the race, what can I do?
The best thing that you can do is contact your municipal clerk, but there really isn't an opportunity for a voter to change their vote once they've cast their ballot by absentee.
Prediction markets, not something I ever thought we would mention when we were talking about elections, but prediction markets are really hot now. And people bet on anything. But here in Wisconsin, you need to be careful if you're going to vote and you think you might bet on the outcome of an election.
Absolutely. So in Wisconsin, as well as more than 20 other states, our law says that if you place a bet or a wager on the outcome of an election, then you are not eligible to vote in that election. And so voters should really be aware that if they're looking to participate in some type of prediction markets, then they also may not be an eligible voter if they've cast a bet or a wager on the outcome of the election. And the penalties under state law are felony penalties. And so voters should really take that very seriously as they consider if they want to participate in those prediction markets, because again, that does mean that they would no longer be eligible to vote in the state of Wisconsin in that race.
Well, we are living in interesting election times. Meagan, thanks so much for being here and helping us get a better understanding of what it all means.
Thanks so much for having me.
Up next, an update on a plan to improve reading scores for all kids in Milwaukee. Stay with us.